Hi guys. So now that we're starting to add some reformer workouts to our catalog, I want to take a few minutes and familiarize ourselves with the actual reformer equipment. Some of you might be very well versed in reformers, some of you might not be, some of you might have one at home, some of you might have access to one but not quite know how it works or what to do with it. It's a really wonderful piece of equipment that's easy to use, but you have to get a little bit familiar before you can jump right in. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm sitting on my reformer carriage. Okay, it slides back and forth along the rails that are these metal pieces. Now, they're not all metal. They come in a whole bunch of different looks and sizes and materials, but they all function the same way. So they all have springs. My springs are here, and they are attached to a bar, a gear bar that holds them in place. So the springs are of varying tensions. They're usually color-coded. I have 3 heavy springs on mine, a medium spring, and a light spring. And you might find that same setup on the one you have. You'll have to check your owner's manual or with your instructor as to what springs are what tension, or you can just play around with it if you have one at home. So those are our springs. They're attached to the gear bar. Your foot bar raises up and down for a number of different exercises and positions. So it has an all the way down position that tucks it out of the way pretty easily. And then it has various levels of height so that you can use it for varying different exercises depending what you're working with. You will work with your legs on the foot bar, your arms on your foot bar. You'll use it to kind of push off and get into your straps. So it has a number of different purposes, which is why it's so versatile with where it goes. All right, so as I travel back here, I have my shoulder rests. Okay, this is where your shoulders rest as you do any lying down work. Okay, the main thing about the shoulder rests is that they can be a little bit discomfortable on your shoulders if you're not truly engaged in your abs. Okay, and so this is where that true engage those abs, that deep layer pulling in, comes into play on the reformer, because against spring tension, if you are not stable and controlled in your core, then your body will shift on this carriage as you move back and forth, and you'll really feel the pressure here. If you are truly engaged and drawing up and in with that pelvic floor and that deep layer of abs, then this is just a comfortable place to rest. You'll find that as you play on your reformer a little bit more. Then I come to my straps. Okay, my straps are roped. Some are cord, some are leather, okay? And then I have handles. Your handles are a number of different things. Some of them are short with loops and then a longer one on the outside. Some of them are neoprene for your hands. Those are comfortable if you have wrist or arthritis problems. Mine are just regular loops, and they have a ring that folds over so you can hook them up and make them shorter if you need to. We use our straps both for our arms and for our legs. And my reformer here has some handy dandy little hooks that they hook onto. You might find that on yours, you might not. A lot of times you'll find your straps resting over your shoulder rest, and that's a really nice way to keep them as you're doing your workout, because then you can grab them easily. My headrest is here in between my shoulder rests, and it raises and lowers for comfort. Okay, depending upon the position of your neck and the curve in your neck is whether or not you might need that headrest up or down. Also, sometimes if we're doing some plank work here and I have my feet in my headrest, it's nice to have it a little bit lifted so that you feel like you have a little bit more control. That's basically it. Back here I have some pulleys, which you don't see in the frame here, but they can raise and lower. They raise and lower the height of the ropes so that sometimes your exercises can have a little bit more or less tension depending upon the pulley size. Okay, so I'm going to run through just a couple of little basics here on the reformer, and then hopefully you'll feel comfortable doing some of our reformer workouts. All right, so my first one is going to be those abs. I'm going to set myself up with some heavy weight for some legs. Usually the first set of exercises we do up here is called footwork for the legs. And it is for the quads and the hamstrings, so it's a little heavy because those muscles are big. I'm going to start with my heels on the bar and my feet flex back. Now, I am resting right up against my shoulder rests here, my pelvis neutral, just as if I had my feet on the floor, and I'm going to flex my feet back just like they are on imaginary floor. I'm going to engage that deep layer of abs, same as you do on the mat, in that natural curve. But I'm going to really, really solidify that with a little bit of exhale and then push away. And then I'm going to keep those abs really tight as I drag myself back in. And if I am truly connected, I'm not going to feel a lot of pressure in my shoulder rests. Now, one of the things we can talk about the reformer is the spring tension. It is very quite unique. So you have to work hard to push away, as you would expect to do, against any resistance. But because the springs work in both directions, you also have to work hard to drag the carriage back in so that you have control and it doesn't slam. Because if you let go of those muscles and you just come back in, it's going to slam because those springs are going to pull you back in quite fast. So the more that you are engaged in your core using your breath and then dragging back in, the more control you have, the more you get out of this workout. So in this exercise, my quads, the front of my thighs, are pushing me out, and my hamstrings, the back of my thighs, are dragging me back in against that spring tension. Okay, so that's the beauty of the springs, and it works in all exercises, upper body, lower body. It just is very apparent on those thighs and those hamstrings because the weight's a little heavier and you can feel it. I'm going to talk a little bit about our straps and stability as we do part of our 100 here. Now, the 100 is your classic Pilates exercise. Excuse me. It can be done on the mat, it can be done on the reformer, it can be done on any of the apparatus. On the reformer, that spring tension gives us a little bit of a unique aspect here because you want your carriage to be still and controlled. And that means that you want to keep the tension on the straps and that stability in your shoulder girdle that we talk about a lot when we do those side planks and that side shoulder work here against the straps in your 100, and you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to put my straps on my shoulder rests. I've lightened my spring tension a little bit. Okay, we do this kind of on a medium weight. I've got 2 of my red springs here as opposed to 3 red springs that I did for my footwork that we just practiced. And I'm going to lie down. Now, I am right up against those shoulder rests, and I'm going to grab those straps in my hands. Now, I am going to scoot away a little bit so I can curl up in that C curve and not feel this rub against here. I've got my straps, my fingertips are long, they're just resting in between my thumbs. If that does bother your hands, you can hold it with a fist. You can try and bring your thumbs on the inside, okay, just making sure that that stays on the base of the palm there. Or again, you might switch to those neoprene handles that might be a little bit more comfortable. All right, so I'm going to imprint through my spine just so I have some stability in through that pelvis and raise my legs. I'm going to start with my elbows in or my arms up. You can find which one works best for you. I'm going to start with my chin and curl up and press into my arms. Now, you might find it a little heavy, but you want to really work on that tension and that stability. So I'm really reaching, sliding my shoulder girdle down and engaging through my core. My arms are long. I've still got that strong imprint, and I'm going to pulse up and down, just like on the mat. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, in, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, as I'm going, I'm only pulsing an inch or 2. My hands are about 2 inches up off the mat, and I'm really sliding those shoulder blades down and away from my ears as I work. I'm really feeling the tension and the weight of the straps in my hands as a way to keep my stability. Now, my arms are long, they have a soft bend, but if I were to bend them more, it's harder for me to control, and you can see the carriage move. So you want to really feel that reach and that sliding of that shoulder girdle as that rib cage wraps around tight, and you've got that control. Bend the elbows and down. Okay, and as you play with that, you'll really feel that length in through that arm and that stability in that shoulder girdle that will help you in all of your other mat work. Last but not least here, because it is one of the funnest things to do, is to put your feet into the straps. But it does take a little practice. So I'm again going to put my straps back down on my shoulder rest, and I'm going to lie down. Now this is one where we use the foot bar to push off. I'm going to keep the same spring tension, that medium 2 red springs, okay? Depending what we do with the feet in the straps, you can change your spring tension for more or less abdominal work or more or less leg work. Right now we're just going to keep it there. So I've got my straps in my hands, and I'm holding sort of the flat part so that I can put my foot in the loop. I'm going to push away with both legs. It's not super heavy, it's just to get me in position. I'm going to put one foot in the strap. It's right around the arch of my foot. Again, you can reposition it to a different place if that is not comfortable for you. I'm going to stabilize with my core. I'm going to put some weight into this strap, and I'm going to take my other foot and put it in the other strap. Now, that does take a little bit of practice. Okay, so engaging through those abs, stable. Now, here I have my feet in the straps. I'm going to have my natural curves in my spine. Otherwise, if I let my feet pull me back, I'm feeling a little bit too much pressure as I'm being pulled by my straps. Okay, so I'm going to find that nice tabletop. My ankles and my feet are parallel, and my ankles are a little higher so my straps don't rub my knees. Okay, a lot of times when we start, we're down here with our feet down and our straps between our knees, and it can be quite annoying and a little bit uncomfortable with all of that hardware there. So if your feet are a little higher than your knees and you're engaged in your core, then you are in a good spot as you work. Okay, so I'm neutral here. As I imprint, remember that rib-hip connection, I'm gonna press away with my legs, and then I'm gonna bend them back in. Now the movement itself, pretty simple and easy. The challenge comes with controlling your core and your back so you're stable. Because as we know, as I press my legs out, we have that vulnerability in our lower back. This is where working that really strong rib-hip connection, that imprint, using your obliques comes in handy because your hips are lengthening. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of tips. If you find that as you come out, you're arching your back and you're feeling not controlled like that, pulling the ribs and hips and letting the feet raise. The higher the legs, the easier to control your pelvis. The lower the legs, the more challenge for your abs, the easier it is to arch. So we all have a little sweet spot where we can lengthen and control. And as you get better and stronger with your reformer work, you can lower your legs a little lower as you go. So again, I'm parallel, neutral when my knees are bent in, imprinted as I go out. And you want to try and keep that close to that 90-degree angle. When you go out, you want to control the pelvis. When you come in, you want to control also. Remember, those springs pull you back here, and you don't want to feel that collapse. All right, the last position I want to talk about is the straight legs. So as I lift my legs to the ceiling, I am controlling my straps. My hamstrings are doing a lot of that work, imprinting and pressing away. Now, if you have any back vulnerability, you might consider bending your knees and pressing out a little bit in the beginning, because this action of pressing the straight leg using your hamstrings and your abs can be a little challenging if you have lower back challenge. Again, keeping your imprint with those legs out there. The higher the legs, the easier to support the back. As I come up, I want to find my neutral, and I definitely want to stop at 90, so I'm not being pulled back here each time, because this is an artificial pull of that pelvis, which can be a little bit straining. So to get out of that, I just bent those knees. So inhale up, nice and neutral, imprint and press away. And this is all just about controlling the straps and the weight of the springs, not allowing them to pull you back. Okay, so this is your lower and lift. The one earlier was bend and stretch, couple basic leg positions. From here, you can add on. I'm going to bend my knees in. I'm going to take my feet out. One foot out, find my foot bar, then the other, and come back in. So that's the basics of the feet and the straps. Okay, so play with that. Okay, from there, I started to say you can work with a number of different positions with your legs, working in some rotated positions, starting to work one leg at a time, working some out and in, and even adding some rolling, like your short spine on the mat, or your roll over on the mat, which is your short spine on your reformer. Sorry about that confusion there. Okay, so those are the basics of your reformer there. The setup, some of the key exercises, and all about the stability. So as you start to play with it, as you start to do some of our exercises and our videos, if you have any questions, just write in the comment fields, let me know, and I'm happy to help you out. Thanks so much. See you soon.